Hello, everyone. ESBR Boxing. We're back, Paul and I, as we are every week to preview another weekend of boxing. Three fights, three locations this week. Paul and I are obviously in two locations. We're going to take you through three locations. Starting off, we're going to pass to Paul. We're going to ask Paul, obviously, as we always do, how he is. But we're also in a treat for us today because Paul is going to take us through a world title fight, which is happening in the Northwest of Manchester. I don't want to say anything else. I'm going to say, Paul, how are you, sir? And please take us through that first fight.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. I'm all good. Thanks, I'm all good. Hope you are too. I'm looking forward to another kind of jam-packed weekend of boxing. Obviously, we're going to go through three fights here, two of which are UK based, one in America. All good contests. And as you said, first and foremost, we're going for the world title action. So without further ado, we're taking you to the Manchester Arena, where Lawrence Okolie is back. He is defending his WBO World Cruiserweight title against the mandatory challenger David Light. Quick tail of the tape, as we always do. Okolie 18-0, 14 knockouts. He's huge at 6'5" for a cruiserweight, 82.5-inch reach from London, and he's an orthodox fighter. David Light, on the other hand, he's also undefeated, 20-0 with 12 KOs, 31 years old, also orthodox fighter, nearly 4 inches smaller at 6'1.5", and he is from New Zealand. So without kind of without kind of, you know, admitting that I think that this is going to be a walkover, which I kind of suppose that you've already done. I think it's fair to say that yes, Light's undefeated, but for me the record's a bit padded. I understand he's the mandatory challenger. He's beaten who he's had to beat, but to hand it back to you, Elliot, is this a routine victory for Okolie on Saturday night? Do you expect him to return to action for the first time in over a year with a knockout win?
Thanks, Paul. Thank you for that, taking us through that eloquently as usual. I think what I was going to say is here is that yes, I do. I do think it's going to be a routine Okolie win, frankly. I mean, I don't think. I mean, like you say, he's been out of the ring for a while, but you look at the opponents, you look at the records, you look at the size difference, Okolie's KO percentage to Light's KO percentage. I think this is going to be a Coley KO again, frankly. I don't see Light having enough to sort of keep him off him, and I just see him getting stopped at some point. And I even go as far, Paul, as to say, having had a look at the rankings this morning, as I do when I wake up every morning, I think actually there's names around that around that WPO rankings that I'd rather have actually seen a Coley in with, frankly. I mean, obviously from a British point of view, there's Billum Smith, there's Riakporhe. Obviously, Badu Jack's high up in those rankings as well. So is Kovalev. I'd probably rather see any of those names, frankly. I mean, maybe not Jack, because I mean, like, or put out, the sort of condition Kovalev's in. But from the other guys, Riakporhe and Billum Smith, I'd much rather see them fighting, frankly, than David Light. I think this is going to be routine for Coley and a routine stoppage.
Yeah, I completely concur. I don't see this being anything other than a routine Lawrence Okolie victory. Obviously, he's been out of the ring for a while. Could be a bit of ring rust, but I don't really see that being a problem with Okolie. Seems like a bit of a gym rat. He's been in there flat out, and yeah, I can see him making a successful third defense of his WBO title that he obviously won back in 2021, 2 years ago now, against Krzysztof Glowacki. But I don't think there's much more we can say on that fight. That's the world title action that we're going to go through. But Elliot, I believe you're going to take us stateside for an intriguing super lightweight fight.
We are, Paul. We are going stateside actually, and we are, yeah, super lightweight as you correctly point out there. So where we're going is we are going to Fresno, the Save Mart Arena, for what is going to be a contest between Richard Comey and Jose Carlos Ramirez. So for those guys, obviously, that I suppose Comey's been around for a while, Ramirez equally. But as we like to do, Paul, as you like to say, it's a quick tell of the tape. So we'll start with Ramirez, 27-1 record, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. I suppose for British fight fans will know him obviously for the 2021 UD loss that he had potentially against Josh Taylor, which is his only loss on his record. But he's got some other good wins on that record. So last time out, beat Jose Pedraza, UD over 12 rounds. He's got Victor Postol on there, Morris Hooker, Zepeda. So quite a list of kind of good names actually on his record. Where he's compared to sort of Richard Comey, who is known as a tough man, tough opponent. 36 years old now though, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Last time out, he had a draw with Jose Pedraza, split decision draw. And the losses on his record are to Vasily Lomachenko, to Teofimo Lopez, Denis Shafikov, and Robert Easter Jr. So obviously, the Lopez fight being in 2019, Lomachenko fight being in 2021. So that was a brutal fight, to be perfectly honest with you. I think anyone who watched that was in some ways calling for that to be stopped. Even Lomachenko himself was calling for it to be stopped, but it wasn't. He made the final bell. But I suppose win wise, you've got on there, I suppose, standout victories probably against Beltran. I think that probably would be a standout there. I mean, he's got a win against Jackson Marinez recently. It was 19-1 fighter, but not the same. Not the same. Sorry, I suppose victors or CV, credibility on his CV that you say Ramirez has. And then looking at it in that division as well, super lightweight division, so Ramirez is up in the sort of ring rankings, high up in those, whereas Comey tends to be in the governing body rankings, but below Ramirez, sort of flirting somewhere between sort of 7 and 10, whereas Ramirez is top 5. So, Paul, my question to you really is, and I want to bounce back for a prediction here, as we always do. But what I'm also going to ask you is 17 KOs Ramirez and 27 wins. Comey is 36 years old now. He's been only stopped once, though, against Lopez back in 2019. If you were to suggest Ramirez as the victor of this contest, do you think it'll be by stoppage, or do you think we can see Comey go the distance again? Please give us your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks Ed, for that eloquent breakdown. To answer your question, yes, I do think Ramirez will win. And to answer your second question, I actually think this could go to points. If I'm going to be honest with you, the reason I say that is, Richard Comey, as you said, only that one defeat, and that was one knockout defeat, and that was an early stoppage from Teofimo Lopez. But you got to remember, Richard Comey, he's a former, I think he was world champion down at lightweight before
IBF,
Lopez
that's right,
fought
yeah.
him.
That's
Yeah.
right, IBF.
So, he's clearly tough as old boots as well. And you do look at, I think Ramirez will be wary that yes, Comey's older and probably coming to the latter stages of his career, but all of his 30 wins, all but 3 of them have come by stoppage. So he's clearly got power in both of those fists. I'd imagine towards a Ramirez points victory here. I definitely think Ramirez will win, but I'm going slightly just towards points rather than a stoppage. I think that if you look at it's funny that both of them fought Jose Pedraza last, and if you compare them, Ramirez kind of beat him handily on points, and obviously Comey drew with Zepeda. Was it Pedraza last time out, didn't he?
No, drew with him, yeah, split decision draw,
So
yeah.
they both fought. They both, yeah. So split decision draw. Think that Ramirez, if you look at his body of work, there's a stage when everyone thought he was the best super lightweight in the world. A lot of people were picking him to beat Josh Taylor as well. I think although he doesn't have a belt now, I still think he's up there as one of the best in the division, if not the best, depending on what Josh Taylor does, whether he moves up in weight or etc. Yeah. So to answer your question, really, I think Ramirez, all the cards are in Ramirez's hand here. I think he will dictate the fight. I think Comey could put pressure on him early and try and take him out, but I don't think that'll happen. Ramirez too smart, too clever for that. If the stoppage is to come from Ramirez, I believe it'll be, in the last third of the fight, rounds 9 to 12, 8 to 12, something like that. But for me, I would probably edge towards a Ramirez on points here.
We're kind of 2 for 2. We're 1.75 for 2. I think, yeah, Ramirez will win as well. I can also, to be honest, I'm favouring maybe the late stoppage you were talking about there, actually, somewhere between sort of 9 and 12. I totally agree with you. It won't be early. It won't blast him out of there, I don't think. I think it'll be too smart, too clever to be stopped by Comey, frankly, as well. So yeah, I expect a Ramirez victory. One little follow-up question I'm going to ask you, Paul, actually. You kind of alluded to it there, though, about Ramirez being potentially the best in the division outside of Josh Taylor. The winner of this fight, do you see them giving any trouble to? I mean, obviously Reggie Prograis around there, Jack Castle's obviously around that weight as well. Matthias, do you see these guys? Do you see whoever wins this fight essentially being comparable to Reggie Prograis, being possibly better in the division than Prograis, or do you see it as being kind of Prograis kind of on that level, and then these guys maybe just a little bit beneath that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think that there's no doubting that if Jose Ramirez does win, which I think we both expect him to do, he's definitely in the conversation with your Regis Prograis and your Jack Cotterells, and your Subriel Matthiases of this world. I think that he's proven before that he can operate at that level, right at the top of the division. Obviously, held a couple of belts before Josh Taylor fought him. So he's clearly a capable fighter. I'd love to see the Prograis fight. I personally rate Prograis as probably the best in the division now. A lot of people thought he even potentially beat Josh Taylor that night all those years ago, but he's a superb fighter. He's a bit of a bogeyman of the division as well. Not a lot of people want to seem to fight him. So yeah, I think he's definitely up in that company, but I wouldn't put him as number one.
Okay, no, thank you. Well, no, I actually agree with you, Paul. I think for me is still number one, but I'd have Ramirez up there as number two if he were to prevail on Saturday. Paul, that's 2 for 3 fights we've had. We're going to go to the last fight now. We're back in the UK. We're back in Telford for what is a WBC International Silver Super Bantamweight fight. Now, I'm excited for you to take us through this one because talking of bogeymen in the division, possible upsets, might have one here, we might not have one here. Paul, please take it away.
Yeah, as you said, there we're heading to the Telford International Centre for a BT Sport Queensbury show, and this one, for me, is the pick of the bunch that we've previewed this weekend. Not in terms of pedigree, but it's in terms of competitiveness, and I'd say that quite a lot of people would be split on this fight. Fight we're talking about is the main event, in Andrew Kane against Iona Baluta. Quick tail of the tape, obviously. Andrew Kane is 10-0 with 9 stoppages, 26 years old, Orthodox fighter, 5'4", and he is from Liverpool. Maluda, on the other hand, is 15-4 with 3 stoppages, a little bit older at 29, also Orthodox, 5'10" and a half, I believe. So he's a good bit bigger. And 73-inch reach. He is from Romania. So, as we mentioned there, potential upsets and everything. You look at Baluta, and he is the Aka Buster, isn't he? There's been times before where he fought TJ Dehaney, beat him as the underdog, beat David Oliver Joyce as the underdog, beat Brad Foster as the underdog, lost a close fight, majority decision to Michael Conlon back in 2021. And last time out, I know we previewed it a few months ago against Liam Davis for the European title. We thought there could have been an upset on the cards there. In the end, Davis put on a bit of a clinic and beat him handily. Baluta is definitely one of those names where he's a step up. He's fringe European level, and I think this is a brilliant fight. I think fair play to Andrew Kane first and foremost. It is a big step up for him, the toughest fight of his career, proper test at this stage. And for me, if he wins this, he really announces himself as a real contender at 122 pounds, despite this only being his 11th fight. So as I mentioned there, coming back to you, Elliot, now, as I mentioned there, he's 10-0 with 9 stoppages, so clearly a big puncher for a super bantamweight. Two questions, really. Do you think that at this stage of his career, Kane is potentially bitten off more than he can chew? Or do you think this is a brilliant fight at the right time, winnable, and if he does win it, then the world is his oyster?
Oh, I agree with you. If he does win it, I think he really announces himself. I think, to be honest with you, I do think it's probably a little bit more than he can chew at this stage, just because I'm looking at Bluta's not been stopped, bigger. I like seeing a high height difference at the rate, down there. So I can almost see Baluta sticking on a kind of 10 rounds of kind of range boxing and kind of trying to keep him essentially trying to get Kane away from him. And like you say, he's been in there with names that are frankly bigger in profile than Andrew Kane and equipped himself well. I mean, you can say, Conlon might not necessarily obviously be a big puncher, but it was a close fight. Liam Davis, really good performance, obviously last time out as well, to beat him. So I'm leaning. I mean, I've got a soft spot for Baluta here, and I'm actually leaning for him again, possibly on points. I mean, the only thing again, obviously, is in Telford. Will the kind of home judging in a way come through in that respect or not? I don't know, but I think on paper, yeah, it looks like a banana skin, frankly, that I think could be a bit much for Andrew Kane at this stage of his career, and I'll actually be leaning towards Baluta on points.
Baluta on points. Interesting. I completely see where you're coming from. I know we both actually thought Baluta might have beaten Liam Davis last time out. And if I'm going to give my prediction, I'm thinking, yeah, if that Liam Davis fight hadn't have happened, I might have edged towards Baluta on points. But there's something telling me that Andrew Kane is going to be the coming of age. Really, I don't know whether he'll stop him, but I think Andrew Kane might come through this one. I'd be interested to see the betting odds and what way they are. But for me, I'm going with Andrew Kane. I'm going with the prospect. And yeah, Liverpool could have a new star. Obviously, they've got a few coming through in the likes of Nick Ball. But I think, yeah, Andrew Kane here, this is a big opportunity for him to announce himself as a real contender at Super Bantamweight.
Well, Paul, we were very close to a complete sort of symbiosis, complete sort of conflation there in our opinions, but we're not. We have diverged again to end this video. Like you say, obviously three great fights there. I think the Kane Blue one will be the pick of the three, but obviously looking forward to Oakley's return and looking forward to the action stateside as well. For two, obviously, ex-world champions contesting that fight there. Paul, thank you very much for joining me this week. Or should I say, it could be me joining you. But yeah, thank you very much, obviously, for showing this last 15 minutes with us. Guys, let us know what you think. Obviously, in the comments, whether we're talking sense, whether we're not talking sense, whether you see the fights going differently, whether you agree with myself, whether you agree with Paul. Check out the content we've got coming up. Obviously, further previews, deep dives, written content, previews, reviews, and everything of that nature on the website there and on the socials. Only thing else to say really is thank you very much for watching, and Paul, thank you very much for joining me.
Yes, cheers, guys. All the best.